We continue to follow breaking news at this hour. This morning, former President Donald Trump preparing for a possible indictment and arrest in New York. Moments ago, the House Oversight and Accountability Committee released a letter blasting the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg for getting ready to, quote, engage in an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority. The letter comes as an ally of the former president is reportedly expected to testify today before the Manhattan grand jury in an ongoing hush money case. Again, that's happening in the next few hours. The testimony comes days after the former president said that he will be and he expects to be arrested tomorrow. In an email over the weekend, DA Alvin Bragg wrote that we do not tolerate attempts to intimidate our office or threaten the rule of law in New York. That was on the heels of the former president posting on social media for Americans to protest, his supporters to protest, and then take the nation back. Joining us this morning to talk more about what is happening and what we expect in the hours ahead, in the Manhattan Probe is Tom Dupree, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and partner at Gibson Dunn. Great to see you this morning. So does a possible indictment legally prevent the former president from continuing a run for the White House?
It does not. There's nothing in our law or the Constitution that would prohibit former President Trump from continuing his campaign to regain the presidency, even if he were indicted. Certainly, there would be political ramifications. It's anyone's guess kind of how this would all play out in a Republican primary or a general election. But as far as any sort of legal obstacle, there's none.
But this is unprecedented. Undoubtedly, we've never seen anything like this.
We really haven't. This is uncharted territory. I think the first question on the DA's mind is, assuming he does move forward with an indictment, how does he actually have former President Trump come to New York for an arraignment, do all the things that you typically would do when you arrest, indict someone, and when they're arraigned, fingerprint, all of that, without it becoming even more of a media circus than it's already going to be.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to talk a little bit about just the process and what we can anticipate tomorrow. If he is, in fact, arrested, you say it won't be an ordinary arrest and it will be heavily negotiated. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is typically when you arrest someone, it's not always kind of at a time and place of their choosing. If you have someone, for example, who committed a violent crime, the police grab him, they bring him into the police station, he's brought into the courthouse. Something like this is different. This is the sort of offense where typically in a prosecution along these lines, you would have some sort of communication in advance with the defendant. In other words, you would say, an indictment has been filed, we're planning on arresting you, would like to arraign you, and they would work it out so that former President Trump would come to New York. But again, this is anything but an ordinary indictment, anything but an ordinary arraignment. And so I think that's why the district attorney, apparently for the last week, has been closely coordinating with the police and other security officials in New York to make sure that this process can be followed.
And based on the barricades that we're seeing set up, despite the fact that they haven't come out and publicly said anything, is there any chance this doesn't happen, or are all signs pointing to he will be arrested?
I wouldn't say it's an 100% certainty. There are still witnesses who apparently today are going to be testifying before that grand jury, including one rebuttal witness that the Trump lawyers asked be allowed to testify. So while I wouldn't say it's an 100% certainty of an indictment, I would agree that all signs are pointing in that direction. The DA would not be having these conversations. They would not be setting up security barricades if the DA weren't pretty confident that he's going to move forward with this.
Right. And you're talking about Michael Cohen as a rebuttal witness. Is he a trusted witness? Is he a credible witness?
Well, I think the rebuttal witness will probably be Costello. This is the guy who had kind of been a liaison between the Trump camp and Michael Cohen. And so the idea, I think, from the Trump camp is that Costello would basically be a rebuttal witness to what Michael Cohen has already told the grand jury. In other words, he's someone who the Trump lawyers think might provide a different perspective, maybe undermine some of the things that Michael Cohen has been telling the grand jury in kind of an 11th hour effort to head off this potential indictment.
Right. And on the heels of that, Cohen says, I'll come back, I'll testify again. So of the allegations, Tom, and the potential cases against the former president, many say that this New York case is the weakest. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. There's no shortage of legal controversies and possible charges swirling around the former president. The Georgia district attorney has been very closely examining what the president did in Georgia. There's obviously the special counsel here in Washington, D.C., who's looking at a number of different things, including Mar-a-Lago, the documents. So there are a host of potential prosecutions that could be brought. And from my perspective, at least, they appear to be moving forward with what I think is probably the weakest charges against the former president, but it looks like that's going to be the first one in the queue.
And what would be the crime? What is your understanding?
What we appear to have here is a case where the DA is going to charge the former president for falsifying business records. Under New York law, that's ordinarily a misdemeanor, but if you allege or you can prove that the falsification of the business records was for the purposes of concealing another crime, and here it would be the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, then that crime elevates to a felony. That's my guess of what the DA is going to be pursuing against former President Trump here this week.
All right, we're keeping an eye on all of it. Tom Dupree, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.